This last idea is probably the closest to the original design, which I told you was sort of patterns, well, obviously in black, whichever colour you wanted to stamp them on these arches. But my idea was, rather than just to have images, which I had on these here, also to add some sentiments. So I had a look in my stash what sentiments I own that will actually fit on these slim arches. And I found something like this here. This one says best wishes. And I've also got these here. These are meant to be stamped in one go and then cut with a die that comes with these stamps. But these are from China. They are, well, I've got one Christmas set, I think it is, that is rather distorted. So it's really difficult to cut them apart. Also, I find, I don't know why I've got two of these sheets. I find some of them I don't need, so why would I stamp them and then throw them in the bin? So I think I might just as well choose one, cut it off, and then use on my arches. So I quite like the eat cake and celebrate, and maybe even it's your birthday. So what I suggest, if you cut stamps apart, I've shown that a few times in my videos, so it's these two here. I like to bend the stamp a little bit, because then you don't cut on the top, you just cut on the background. But this one's actually not too bad, because, bear with me, I've got some glue on here, because there's quite a bit of a gap on here. Again, I'm sure I'm cutting the right one. I've done that once when I meant to cut a stamp that way, cut the words apart, and I cut the wrong word off because I wasn't paying attention. So it's these two I want. Yeah. I don't mind cutting my stamps apart to fit whatever I need. See, with this one here now, I would just bend it like that, and then I can easily access the background there. So, and I will also cut these down, because I think they will be easier to bend to the shape of the arches. So, but if you don't have slim sentiments, don't worry about it. I will also, on some of them, I just thought about using just a background stamp just to give it some texture. Also, I've got little stamps like that. I thought they would work nicely on there, or maybe even a pattern like that. I just want to keep this black and white, and as I said, have some texture, have some pattern, but I think I will do every other one with a sentiment and then the other one with a pattern. So I just want to show you a trick now, how to get these to fit the arch. The smaller ones will be more difficult, so I'm definitely starting on the outer one, and I'll tell you what I will do with this one here. I've already stuck it down with my removable adhesive in the middle, but I will also use my bone folder to try and get that crease out of there a little bit that appeared with the die. It does flatten it a little bit. So on my stamping block, which I have mislaid. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to line this up. We'll just do it on the middle here. And I've got the eat cake and celebrate. And I can see through my stamping block here where the arch is. So I have to put it this way around. So, and I can follow the shape of the arch. I'll tell you what, I'll stick it down in the middle first. And then I can bend the sides down here. The longer the sentiment is, the more difficult this will probably be, but especially with the cheap silicone ones, you can easily manipulate them. If you find they don't stick well to your acrylic block, put a little bit of the removable adhesive underneath, but I think this is okay. Just checking again, it's a bit tricky to see. I tell you what, I'll take this off here and put it on a darker background just to See whether that holds a shape. This is much easier to see. So I think that's okay, and it will just about fit. So if I stamp a little bit off the side, I don't mind that. I think the recipient will get the idea. Just be mindful, sometimes these stamps want to pop back. I think this one can go down just a wee bit. Also making sure I don't have any of that fluff from the side on it, and I will also stick this down here. So, and once I've stamped it in the middle, I will also stamp on the side. So I'm just using my VersaFine black onyx, because I want this black and white. You can obviously use any other colour. And these are cheap stamps. I can already see there's something on the E there. It might just be a bubble from production. So I'm not expecting a perfect result. So I will start here in the middle. Again, theoretically I need a different colour in the background. So that's my little tip. Don't do white on white, because it is difficult to see. So I'm trying not to squash it too much, because these will give way easily. There we go. How cool is that? And theoretically, in my brain, this should work for the edges as well, because in a circle, obviously, the curve should be the same all the way around. So we'll cut off the E a little bit from the E, but I think that's okay. Yeah. How cool is that? So we'll do the same on there, and as I said, it will be a bit trickier, I think, with these, because they have got a different curve. Obviously the smaller ones are maybe too curved for the sentiments, but I will do this all off camera now. I hope the video doesn't get too long, and then I'll show you what my ideas are on popping these on the backgrounds. So for the first card, or rather the larger arches, I just wanted to show you this. I have stamped the background stamp all over these three here. I thought I might just well do it in one go. I messed it up a little bit here, but I'm not too bothered about that. Then I used one of the feather stamps on here. I used some chevrons here on the side, another sentiment slightly curved. It's not perfect, but I'm okay with that. But because this is black and white, I thought I wanted to keep this minimalistic, and I will actually not have one of my blue backgrounds, but I've chosen a grey card. I've cut this to 8 inches by 6 inches, scored it at 4 to create a 6 by 4 card, and I will have it as a top folding card, and I will have this sideways. So my idea was just to glue these arches down now. I will use my wet glue, but you can also use a glue pen, especially on the thin ones here. And then I will cut some little clouds. For this one here, because it's so minimalistic, I didn't want to, do anything too fancy. I will actually use a proper cloud die. This one is a stitched one. This one is from Lawn Fawn. I have it. I might just as well use it. But if you don't have a cloud die, my thought was, and I will do this off camera for some of the other cards, I've got these flower dies. They're like nesting dies, and I thought if I cut them and then cut them off at the bottom and layer them, like something like that, I think I can make these look like clouds. I'm not quite sure yet what I want to do, whether I just want to do them in white. This one I will definitely just do in white, but I think I'll do this off camera, because otherwise this video will be too long. One little idea as well that I haven't done is, you could obviously, with this black and white, stamp that and heat emboss it. I would have put clear embossing powder on the black ink. That would have looked nice, but now mine is rather sort of dull, but I think it'll work out okay. So as I said, I will do lots off camera now, and then I will talk you through some of it at the end. And I also show you how I cut a circular card, because I would like to create at least one circular card with these arches. I'm just popping in with a few more ideas. So one of the reasons why I wanted the clouds is to hide something like that. Obviously the way I aligned the first one wasn't perfect, and because I wanted to make sure that these are all flat and don't overlap, which I managed, these come out all a little bit wonky, but that's why I wanted to cover this. If you don't have clouds or don't like clouds, you can always have a sentiment strip across. I think that's another good idea. So far I'm really pleased with this. Another little tip. I decided to put a happy birthday die cut here on the front to fill in that space. I die cut this from this sort of shiny grey cardstock, but I don't have a shadow die for that. So I'm using the die itself. I've placed it on some white cardstock, and I'm just tracing around this die here. I'm not bothering about the middle bits. They will just stay where they are. To do it a little bit more neatly. And then once I've done that, I can cut around that, erase any pencil marks that will show, and that will give me a nice little border around my sentiment. Another little tip from me. If you do your own shadow die, you will find that you've got areas like here where the card now is sort of facing upwards, because this is what your scissors did to the card. So there are two things you can do. Natalie from Anby Cards, she likes to use a tool like this, and she likes to go round, and then this gives a sort of look as if it has been die cut, because this edge is just will be sort of facing downwards. The other thing you can just do if you don't have a tool like that is just use your bone folder and just flatten it all over. You can probably even put it through your die cutting machine. Either ways are fine. This one does look a little bit neater, but it's really up to you. I have almost finished my cards, and I just want to explain a few things, and I've got a few more tips as well. So that's the black and white with the grey background card. So I have cut the shadow die and I have popped it up on some foam pads. I think this works really nicely as a mail card, so I'll have a look who I can give this to. In hindsight, I would probably have done the clear heat embossing over the black, because it does look a little bit dull, but I still think it's a nice design idea. So for this one, I have used the sponge background where I stamped with a sponge, and I have die cut these flowers and I have stuck them at the bottom, but when I did, I put a little bit of scrap paper underneath just to make sure I didn't have any glue sort of seeping onto the inside of the card. This, by the way, is a 6x4 card, maybe a little bit under 6 inches, but I have stuck these flowers down because I wanted to show you. You can see I have some excess glue there, but that's dried now. So what I can do now that this is all dried, I can cut off the overhang. So because I'm already on different layers, because the middle one is already on foam pads, but I made sure there would be no foam pads too close to the edge, I can now just cut these off. I would not recommend doing that with a guillotine, because we've got 2 layers here as well, and that can become a little bit tricky. So let me just, it's a bit of a funny angle because of this one here. I tell you what, I will cut this off halfway through. I hope you can see what I'm doing. Then I will come in from this side to cut this one off, and then I can doctor the middle one. Don't want to butcher this card. Don't want to cut into the cardstock, which looks like I already have. That's a tricky one. So I do suggest actually you don't stick the one on foam pads, because this one's now tricky to cut off at this angle. But I always leave these things in so I can tell you about it and you can do it a little bit better. Yeah, I'm also very close there. It's because I've got the other cloud there sticking out. So in hindsight, I should have stuck this on afterwards. Cut it down and then stuck it on. But I think I get away with it. The only thing I will do there is straighten this a little bit again. Not perfect, because I really cut a little dent in there. I can always cut this one again, just stick another one on top. I might actually do that. Oh, and I forgot to cut this edge off. So, but you get the idea. And I think the flowers work nicely as clouds. I've got the option of putting a sentiment on them as well if I wanted to. At the moment, I left this without a sentiment. So, then this one here. I decided to create a circular card. I can't remember whether I mentioned that before. So what I have done, let me put these aside. What I have done is I have cut 2 white circles. These are, let me just check, 5.5 in diameter. And I've also cut the background with the same circle die just to make this really sturdy. I've glued the rainbow on here, and I have also cut smaller circles, 2 of them, well, sort of half circles, or a bit over half I cut, just from scraps, because I remembered that I also had these cloud dies. Well, one is a cloud die, the other one I used at first. It's actually, I think that's actually a hill, but that's a cloud die. So I cut this one across. So first I cut the half circle, then I cut this one across, and then with this one I concentrated on this edge here because that one disappears anyway, because I glued this one down flat and the second one, oops, sorry, is on foam pads, and I think that's really nice. So to create the actual card, I have scored, I should show it like this, I have scored this at 1/2 inch, and I've burnished that and folded it to the back. And then to make the card stand, I put it in my guillotine, making sure that this score line is straight. Yeah, and I really cut just a slither off. Yeah, if you don't have it straight, this won't be at the bottom. And I can now put glue on this flap here. I'm going to line it up on my grid mat here just to make sure it's straight. And then I'm coming in with a top panel, and again I'm making sure it's straight the way I want it. Obviously I don't have a full straight line because this is all covered, but I want the hearts actually are straight, and I can place this on top of my circle, making sure it's properly lined, and then I can press down at the top. I'm going to leave this to dry for a moment. I'm just using my bone folder for a bit of pressure, so I'm going to leave that to dry for a moment to show you that in a sec. So for this card, I think this is the last but one background I had. Can't remember what I did with that one, and because it was all yesterday. So again, I've cut a 5 7/8 card by 4, and I've used one of the strips, same width but slimmer, to stamp the sentiment on. And again, I propped that up on foam pads, and just because the sentiment in the middle was a little bit lost, I cut 2 more of these clouds. Put this one a little bit higher though, just to have a variation. One of my tips though is, if you think you might be struggling putting down the arches straight and having them on one level, this one ended up again a bit wonky on the side, so one was a bit shorter. What you can do is, when you've got your nesting dies and you've cut your arches, afterwards you can take the inner ones out, just leave the outer one and the very inner one. I'm not using these again, so I can take these off now, but I suggest you do that as a last thing. And then I would just cut from copy paper, not from cardstock. I would cut this out, and then you've got a base to glue the arches onto. Yeah, and then you basically have got only one piece you need to stick onto the card. So you can even, when the individual arches are a bit wonky, you can just cut it straight before you put it onto the card base. So that's a little tip from me. So is there anything else I need to show you? Yes, I haven't finished a card with this, but I have just cut the other circles here just from some coloured paper. Not cardstock, most of it is really thin coloured paper. And I haven't taken it apart yet. I have basically put all 4 pieces of paper into one pile and I have cut all the way through. And if I peel these off now, just wanted to show you another idea. As I said, I haven't finished the card yet. Oh, I didn't use whole sheets, I just used half because I knew I wanted only one set of arches. I can then, these one a bit stick down on the removable adhesive. So keep that in mind when you do that. So because I thought it might be actually be quite nice to use pattern paper to create a rainbow. So this one, oh, this one hasn't cut through completely. It has on one side but not on the other. So let me just use the lower one just to demonstrate what it would look like. So I could basically piece these together like I have before. This one was just an ombre. Nope, I need the smaller one of that. But you can mix and match because you've got basically all 4 colours in all 4 sizes. So, oops. Let me just move that out of the way. Can you see? I think this would be really nice as well. Obviously, I would have this one not upside down because all the plants are showing one way. I could have chosen a red or whatever, but I just grabbed what I had. So that is just an idea what you can also do, but I think this video is long enough. I haven't got a clue how long it is, and I've still got this panel left over, but I use that for another project. So let me just show you this card now. Yeah, so I can open this up like this and it stands nicely because I've just cut the slither off. So yeah, these are my 4 rainbow cards. I'm really pleased with them. I think they turned out really nice, and I hope I could give you plenty of ideas what you can do with your supplies. But don't forget, if you have not even got round nesting dies, you can always trace around, you know, like mugs or saucers or plates. You don't need all the gear. You can just cut them out by hand. Yeah, cut bits out by hand, cut the clouds by hand. Nothing has to be die cut and shopboard. I hope I could give you lots of ideas what you can create with your stash. Yeah, and if you like this video, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video. I'm just popping in like I sometimes do, even after the outro. I just wanted to show you this. So I have actually added another flower here, but the bigger one, which was a cut-off of one of these. And I have offset it a little bit just to cover the dodgy bit. I'm going to put a foam pad underneath there, and I think this looks really nice. So I could actually add another one there, and I think this looks even more like clouds. Then for this one, I forgot to mention why I hadn't covered the clouds. I could put a sentiment on them, but I think this will be actually quite difficult to stamp on now that I have got dimension. My idea was, if I should have to make a card for the loss of a pet, like a dog or a cat, I could add a die cut. I've got some cat die cuts here, dies for example, and I could add that for an animal that has gone over the rainbow bridge, and I thought this would be really nice for that. So, and I also finished this card just as one example. I put all the other circles in the bin. I could have used them and mixed and matched, but I thought I'd just do one of these. I die cut the happy birthday again, the same sentiment, pardon me, just from some glitter cardstock. And then I've cut these clouds. They do come with these faces, but I'll just show you that on one example. you can, when you've die cut them, you can see these little bars on the actual cardstock after you've die cut them. So I just added some stickles. Can you see the shine there? Just to hide from that. And I backed them obviously up with a little bit of black for the faces. I really like the look of that. There is a little bit of stickers obviously on the faces now, but I think this will be fine. If I don't like the finish of them, I could always put some glossy accents on afterwards. This one does want to come off a little bit as well, but that they are still drying anyway. But just another idea. I've also have to admit I just found some more cloud dies in my stash. I didn't know I had them. If you like that, have a look in your stash what you actually do have. And yeah, I hope you like these cards. I'm really pleased with them, but I'm calling it a day now, and I've got my fingers crossed that this video is not too long.